I don't know. Should I make a swagger of a black teen joke or something? I don't know.
It gives me goosebumps every time he does it, especially as the music begins to swell.
Okay, so hey guys, it's Neil and his friend Zach. We're here to talk about Miles Morales. He has costumes too, as it turns out, so we're gonna end up talking about those. He has like 5 in the comics. Most of these are OC costumes. So given Insomniac's track record from our last video, I'm not sure how that's gonna end up turning out. So as a reminder, as I'm here wearing my definitely Bodega Cat hat and not Quilava from Pokemon, a couple of ground rules. First off, we're ranking these suits only by 2 things: their narrative pathway and their aesthetic.
Yeah.
Their aesthetic appeal. We won't be ranking by ultimate abilities or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anything gameplay related. We're mostly just ranking only by how we feel about the costumes as they are in the game, just to look at.
Yeah.
So the first costume we've got is the I think it's the sportswear suit. It's what it's called in game. It's the one that's kind of like the Into the Spider-Verse costume, but wearing like pieces of Peter's costume and like a Marty McFly jacket. He's wearing the sports pants and the sneakers.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put this in. Well, I don't want to put it too high because it's kind of like obviously meant to be like a piecemeal costume. I'm gonna put it in B tier. It does a pretty good job of telling us like where Miles is as far as his place in the Spider-Man universe at this point. You know, he's still under Peter's wing.
He's definitely still learning the ropes. It's all about learning the ropes here.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into, I think, is the Great Responsibility suit is the second one.
Yes.
The one that more closely mirrors his first appearance as Spider-Man in Bendis's run of Ultimate, where he is slowly getting more and more comfortable with the Spider-Man identity before ultimately getting the more comics accurate costume later in the game. So we're gonna put this in B tier because it's hard to judge it on its own because it is kind of just like, what if we took pieces of the classic suit and gave it to Miles?
Yeah, it's like the spare parts suit that that Peter just gives, and since he hasn't been given an actual real suit yet. So
yeah, it's like, hey, listen, man, I found this in my garage. You can have it.
I hate to say it this way. It's like the suit that if your son, if you were like an older Spider-Man and your son suddenly got spider powers, you're like, hey, I got some pieces here. We can kind of cobble together a suit. So keep your identity secret.
This is like the janky equivalent of Mayday getting the Ben Reilly suit.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah. Although Mayday did pick, like, she found
the better suit.
She found that suit and was like, I like this one better.
Okay, the Great Responsibility suit. I'm kind of torn on this. I'm gonna give it a B.
I was gonna say B I would say it a B. Yeah.
Definitely not the best suit, but like I said, it does a good job of kind of tracking Miles' progression of getting more comfortable with the Spider-Man identity. And like I said, it is, like we said earlier, it's a pretty good translation of the Bendis costume, or the first Bendis costume.
Yeah.
Just to show he's not completely there yet.
And given the amount, the fact that he's not had very many suits in the comics, given his relatively young history, like, with Peter, there's so many you can choose from, so many that they didn't even include all of them in both games. I mean, there's still a couple of suits that I would think would be like at the top of the list,
and they haven't been done yet.
Like the Captain Universe suit, the Ben Reilly suit, like the spectacular or sensational suit. Neither one of those have been put in the Insomniac games. Like that's surprising to me because those are really hugely requested alternate suits.
Well, Zach, we've got to invite new artists on to make suits that no one's gonna wear. Okay, the homemade suit. I believe it's the homemade suit, right?
Yeah. It's Miles' homemade suit. Very much looks like it's inspired by Ben Reilly a little bit with the way the spider is.
Yeah, definitely got a lot of sensational influence. I'm putting it in the C tier.
C tier, yeah, I would say.
It doesn't have the same. It looks too thin to be a homemade costume. The reason the Homecoming homemade suit was so good was because it looked bulky, it looked rough, it looked homemade. This kind of reminds me of the first suit from the Amazing Spider-Man films, where Peter just like stuck some sunglasses into a ski mask and started beating the crap out of people
with the freaking beanie on.
With the yeah.
Beanie.
Oh, okay. So I just looked this up on the Marvel Spider-Man video game wiki. That this is Miles' first costume during an alternate retelling of Secret Invasion in Spider-Man Annual Volume 2. So this is actually a comics costume.
Oh, the more
Still a C tier.
It's still C tier, but like, okay.
It's interesting to know, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It does make sense. Again, I haven't read every single one of Miles's books, but I've read most of them.
The more you know. Okay, the tracksuit. I'm giving this an A.
It's an A. As much as I don't love massive amounts of white on a suit, I think as a progression of Miles's traditional suit, I think it does really look good. This is one of the few times that I think that Insomniac hit a home run, and I think that is definitely a home run suit. When they just do tweaks to existing property suits, I think they hit home runs. It's when they're doing everything designed wholesale that I feel like they kind of...
Well, apparently this costume was designed by Javier Garron, who was a comic book artist who did Miles' solo series for a time.
There you go.
So the lesson here, kids, is get more comic book artists to design comic book costumes.
What a concept! Continue.
Okay, yeah, like you said, I think this does a really good job of like doing a comic accurate, not a comic accurate, but comic-esque costume, and adding just enough detail and extra features that it looks like it could have come straight from the comics in a real life setting. So
yes, kind of similar to what was it, the suit that Peter got that had the miniseries, the Velocity suit. You know, because
this is good. That's the difference.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, next is the Bodega Cat suit. S tier. Listen, man.
I will agree because I think it's a really fun suit. The addition of Bodega Cat, it's kind of become its own iconic thing within Miles and the community. So I think that it works that way. You guys know I'm not a cat person. I mean, I don't. I'm a dog guy. But S tier suit, I will agree.
I think my only quibble with it, and this is a very minor quibble, is that they should have just used the standard costume that Miles has at the end of the game with the sweater on. They made like a new mask just for the Bodega Cat costume, which it looks good, but I feel like, you know, keeping with Miles's suit lineage in this story, you get this costume after beating the game.
Yeah.
I feel like Miles having his, I guess, let's call it the ultimate suit. I feel like that costume should have been worn with the sweater. But I do find the idea of Miles swinging around New York City with a cat in his backpack, going on missions together, and the cat being part of the finishers, because that was a teased part of the suit's functionality, was that the cat is added into fight scenes. I think is a cool addition, especially given the cat's role earlier in the story.
Agreed. It actually makes narrative sense, and it's a cute, fun bit. It actually adds to, it's not just a gimmick for the sake of a gimmick, which would make it lower as a tier suit, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. The Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon suit.
S tier.
I'm gonna put it at the bottom of S.
Okay.
Mainly because it looks really good. I don't know. There's something about it that rubs me the wrong way. It doesn't translate in the same way as other suits that we'll see that are more stylized.
Sure. I can. Okay, when you're putting it next to the suits that, like one of the suits that we'll talk about in a few, then yes, I agree. But in terms of like, I view that suit in the same way I view the one for Peter from the first game. Like I that's why I think it's an S tier, bottom of S tier.
I do hope that Marvel, or not Marvel, that Insomniac kind of takes the hint that we want to see more of these stylized suits. As much as I am not a huge fan of the Mangaverse costume, I do still think it's an interesting addition, if only because it looks so stylistically different from like the hyper-realistic, super textured ones that we have.
We don't need, and that's my one concern about Wolverine, is are they going to make the suits look too realistic? And are we going to get a hyper realistic Wolverine I don't know.
Are you ready for the anti-villain suit?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know why I sounded so dead there. Um, okay, this one is I don't know what this one is called. I think it's just the school uniform costume.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put it in B tier, I think.
Yeah, B tier's
And
fine.
we'll talk about this one. We'll talk about the foundation of this one later, but it's kind of just that with a backpack and some, I guess. Well, I'm guessing there's Sony.
Okay,
I'm guessing there's Sony headphones because Sony is that shameless in their promos.
My thing is with this game more so than the last, there is costumes that are built off of a really good base that are just the same.
They don't add
costumes,
anything.
but they're just a few different visual cues, and that probably also goes into the fact that the development of this game and the window for the development of this game was super short because they were trying to make it as a launch title. They didn't just build this game and then turn around and then build the
start on Gamer Man 2. Yeah.
They literally rebuilt Gamer Man from the ground up in the PS5.
So my main gripe is that, like, you know, the costume itself, we'll talk about the ultimate costume later,
Right.
but this one doesn't add any cool narrative function because, as far as I can tell, Miles is on like Christmas break from Brooklyn Division, so it makes no narrative sense for him to be running around in his school uniform. Plus, the backpack doesn't have anything interesting going on. There's no bodega cat. There's nothing interesting about Miles's bag. It's just there for the sake of having the bag there. This one, I think, is it the Crimson Cowl suit? Hang on, let me look it up.
C tier.
Yeah. Okay, my hot take is I don't mind the hood.
I don't mind the hood, even though like I am triggered usually by that type of hood because of the Ben Riley 3.0.
This is the strike suit, I believe.
It looks ugly. I'm sorry.
I'm putting this in F tier. This is our first F tier look.
Hey, first F tier.
Alas, poor F tier. You barely got away without a kill.
Sad trombone.
This one is okay. So remember the common spider suit that I made an entire shit post out of? This one feels like it didn't learn any of that suit's lessons, and it additionally feels like it actively took the wrong lessons away from it, because they kept the stupid, like, overly patterned, over designed look of it, but they made it live action, and that's the issue. But what made the common spider costume at least fun for me in the first game was that it was it was stylized in addition to being over designed.
Right.
This one feels like it just took the wrong lesson of, hey, let's make an overly designed Kamen Rider costume, but didn't take the lesson of putting it in a cartoon format again.
100% agree. I just think that sometimes adding things just to add things is not necessary. Sometimes less is more. And I think when it comes to costume design, now sometimes you are limited by the medium of which you are designing. And obviously you can add things like textures and you can add things like nuance to the designs. And we see that very often in this game, sometimes to its own detriment. But sometimes keep it simple, stupid is not a bad thing, folks.
Next costume, The End.
I hate that story, and so I don't like the suit.
I'm one of those people who's able to kind of, every once in a while, when my selective bias is apparent, able to separate my dislike for the story from the dislike of the suit. I'm putting this in B tier, mostly because aesthetically it looks pretty good in my opinion.
It looks better in the game than it did in the book, and that was just because Damian Scott was not the choice.
Yeah. I do think that I've noticed that Miles' costumes tend to lean a little harder into being original masks, whereas most of Peter's costumes in the first game tended to use the mask of the first costume as the foundation.
Right.
So the lenses on this lean a bit harder on Damian Scott's original design, which is why I think it doesn't work as well.
It would be interesting to see how they would do like a McFarlane design or a Ron Friends design or a John Romita Jr. design, if they would do different comic styles, that would be kind of fun.
Okay, next suit, the 2099 suit, which was designed by, I believe, Lee Garbett for the 2099 variant covers.
Yes.
Putting this one in A. I really like this costume.
It's a good take on what if Miguel and Miles's costumes had a baby.
Yeah, I think it does a good job of taking Miles's design language and passing it down to, I hesitate to say younger and hipper, but to someone who would be living in the 2099 era.
Yeah.
So,
looking at what, what's his name? Rick Leonardi did in the design and say, okay, how can we make that work within a Miles Morales type person? Okay, here we go.
All right, here's the big one, the classic suit. Easy S tier.
Top of the S tier. I mean, the translation of the suit from the comics is easily amongst the best I've seen.
It's up there with Peter's classic costume.
Agreed. 100% agreed. It is absolutely. They've made 2 Marvel Legends of this thing. I have not been fortunate enough to get either one yet, but it's like on my list of ones to get, and I desperately want one of these because it just looks that good. And even small, subtle tweaks that they made between 1 and 2, like this is literally what Sarah Pichelli created.
And I love to give these games crap for their I guess I don't want to say enhancements, but over detailing.
Right.
Like with the not with the basketball texture, but like the over texturing of the costumes, like the carbon fiber and the glossy like 3D printed logos and stuff like that.
Sony-fied. On both the ASM suit and the Maguire suit, they have like the little hexagonal patterning. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
Like what they did with the Star Trek uniforms, where they put the Delta as like a
like you don't necessarily need that, Sony.
But I will say, this costume and the original classic ASM costume from the first game, they take that and they make it work, and I appreciate that so much you would not believe.
And I'll say this: they do make some tweaks to this suit in the ASM or the Spider-Man 2, and they do make some tweaks to the existing Insomniac suit in Spider-Man 2. And I don't hate those tweaks. I think they do a good job taking this as the foundation and advancing it a little bit.
I do think that it's sort of like the MCU problem where they feel like they have to make a new costume in order to justify people. Oh, look, this new thing that makes my dopamine count go higher. But those design changes at least feel like they work within Miles' design language.
Agreed.
Okay, this one's gonna round out, I think, our S tier for the night. But this one's definitely going in S tier above the Ultimate costume, or above the cartoon costume, Into the Spider-Verse. Easy S tier.
Oh yeah, easy S tier. Like this is the last of the consensus on the S tiers for this list.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
It matches the body type perfectly. It looks aesthetically almost exactly like it came from the movie. It might help because they are literally owned by the same person or by the same company. They even managed to knock down the 12 frames per second stylized movement that Miles has in the movie. I am a little upset that we didn't get the version with the hood, with the hoodie and the shorts and the sneakers.
Yes. I agree with that. That needs to be in one of these games, and they need to go ahead and not spoiler for the next game. They need to I know they made a deal with Adidas, but that kid is not wearing Adidas shoes. He's wearing Nike. He's not going to
crease his Jordans. Like I said, I wish we'd gotten a version that was Miles' kind of leap of faith from the Into the Spider-Verse movie. But with what we got, I'm pretty happy. I had to say pretty happy. I'm very happy considering it made its way into the goddamn S tier.
S tier, top tier, baby.
Okay.
Injected in my veins.
Okay, the Uptown Pride suit, which I believe is the reward for finishing all of the Friend Neighborhood app
Yes.
quests. I'm gonna put this one in B tier.
Yeah. I mean, it really is the regular suit just in gold, but
I understand what this suit means, and I actually think it's a really nice tribute to the community to give to Miles. It works within that narrative framing. My issue is more that it's just the regular suit with gold on it.
yeah, there could have been more to it. I think there's something that's lacking in the suit, in the design itself. Not narratively, but in the design itself.
But for what it is and what it represents in the quest, I think it works. It's
Sure.
just not. It just doesn't reach the same levels of comic accuracy, or it is pretty much just the same suit with nothing except the extra coat of paint. The winter suit, which I believe is the suit that Haley gives to Miles after he thwarts Kingpin's plot in Harlem.
Yes.
I'm giving it an A tier.
I can agree with that.
Mostly because, like, we kind of mentioned this about the Miles Brooklyn Visions costume and sort of the Uptown Pride suit. It is kind of just the same costume with some extra shit tossed on top of it.
Yeah, it's a fun suit, but there's not much to it. I think it's cute. It does remind me of the suit. It reminds me of ASM2, where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has the flu.
Oh, he's fighting the guy in the convenience store.
He's in the convenience store trying to get meds. He's freaking sicker than a dog, but he's still freaking like, sorry, man. Like that to me was like, when I saw that suit the first time, I was like, oh yeah, that reminds me of Andrew. But it really, I like the way they did the color scheme and how it does match Miles's color scheme.
Yeah, and I think the narrative framing of it is that Haley gives it, who is Miles's girlfriend or love interest in this game and Gamer Man 2, gives it to him so he won't catch a cold. I think that's just really sweet.
It's very endearing, and it adds a little bit of depth for Miles in a similar way, where it's just a little bit of it. Whereas
it goes a very long way.
A little goes a long way. With MJ, because she's such a pivotal and narrative character, I could see MJ doing a similar thing for Peter, but because they didn't do that, having Haley do that for Miles really differentiates that relationship from MJ and Peter to Miles and Haley. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Also, with how many suits Peter had in the first game, I think Insomniac was just like, oh, we don't really have room to put this in. And with the way this game is structured, they needed some suits to pad out the cosmetics, and they were like, oh, this works. And I think it ended up working out well.
I think so too. I think it provides a very cute and endearing moment for Miles and Haley.
Okay, this one you might disagree with me on. I'm not sure if this is the costume you wanted S tier, but this is the one that I wanted S tier. The Spider-Man 2020 Daft Punk costume.
Actually, the one that I wanted in S tier was the last one we talked about, but hearing you out, I kind of agree.
So, okay, as someone who is admittedly a big Daft Punk fan, this costume speaks to me a lot. It's got enough visual similarity to Miles' classic costume that it looks very similar, but it's sort of like tearing out the guts of a house and putting new things in. Yeah. The jacket looks really good with the texturing. I think it's got just enough detail that doesn't look obnoxious. I like the holographic spider hidden underneath the jacket. So going from the top of the pile to the bottom of it, the programmable matter suit. This one's going in F tier.
Womp.
I don't think there's a lot to say about this. Okay, you know what it reminds me of, Zach? This is a deep cut Cyber Scarlet Spider.
Oh, Joe Wade.
Yeah, so this reminds me a lot of Cyber Scarlet Spider in like the worst way imaginable.
God, the story. Okay, that storyline with Joe Wade was so bad that I refused to subjugate the Clone Saga Chronicles crew to that story. That's how bad that was. And I made them read Maximum Clonage and Virtual Mortality and Cyber War, but I spared them Nightmare on Scarlet. That's how bad it was.
But yeah, this costume has like all the failings of like an Insomniac original design, like overly designed, clunky, bulky in the wrong ways.
It's needless. It's
Too
needless.
shiny. It reminds me like a lot of the Spider Armor Mark 1 from the first game, but worse.
Yeah, right. At least
where the shine is obnoxious, and there's no black parts to break it up.
Right. I mean, the Marvel Legend was so much better, even though it was essentially the same design. Had they just not made it glossy, it would have worked so much better. It didn't need to be reflective.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this one. Big L.
Big
L and
fat L.
Okay, the Purple Rain suit, the one you get for finishing the Prowler quest. I am torn on this one.
What tiers are you torn on? Because I can maybe.
I'm stuck between B and C.
I think it at best it's the bottom of B, top of C. I think top of C would be appropriate. It's an okay design narratively. I didn't hate it narratively because it is just simply it's a tweak of his existing costume to the Prowler's purple and green, type thing. But I'll be honest, I never played with it.
Yeah, I never found a moment where I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna play as the Prowler costume.
And pretty much anything from B up, I would play around with. The worst suits in the C and F tiers of both these lists that we've done now are suits that I have no desire to play with. And that to me should speak everything that is right about a suit or wrong with a suit, if that makes sense.
The Prowler suit to me is not like offensive in the same way that the Strike suit or the Programmable Matter suit are. That's why we have a C and an F tier. There's two different tiers.
Yes,
but this suit does not inspire me to play at all. It's a fine suit. It's just not for me, and that's why we have opinions.
Well, and that's why it's at the top of the C tier. It skirts that edge between C and B tier. So, yeah, like F tier, we don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. C tier, we're like, we got one more. Okay. We got last one, buddy.
Last one. This is the one from the literal last cutscene of Gamerman 1, where Peter's telling Miles to jump off the Empire State Building.
Normally, that would be just instant death.
Don't worry, Miles. The concrete will stop you.
No hover chair.
I'm putting this one in C tier.
Yeah, I agree.
This one to me is in the same reign as the Purple Rain suit, in that it's like, oh, that's cool, I guess. I'm not gonna wear it because I thought it's just a thing that they already had from the first game. I don't want to say it's. I never want to say these things are asset flips because I know they take time to make.
Right.
But knowing that we saw it in the last game for like 10 seconds, and it's here and you're treating it like it's a big deal, or that like there's a whole quest to get this thing.
The two proto suits in B tier are far more important narratively than that suit. That's why I'm okay with you sticking it in C, because from a narrative standpoint, the Prowler suit does make sense. That's why it's like borderline. But it's a gift from an uncle to his son, to his nephew, to kind of after the game's events show that their relationship isn't forever damaged. Right. Is that he still loves his nephew. He's also going to have to learn to give up his life of crime, and he's trying to at least be helpful and help his nephew succeed. So there is love and passion there.
You know what? There is one costume that we did forget.
Oh, we did?
Well, it's not one that's on this tier list, and I should have thought of that.
Gotcha.
It's the Advanced Tech Suit, which was provided for free with update 1.9.
Oh. You know, so obviously now we're here at the edit. I don't dislike that suit. I think the only thing I would change is the around the eyes. I would have made that red. Does that make sense? Like from a design standpoint, the only thing I don't like about it is there's. I mean,
I would take away those weird armor plates on like the abdomen.
Yeah, no, I agree. But as a stylized spider, that's not bad. It's
not. I'd put it in C tier.
C tier is probably yeah, absolutely. I'd put it in C tier. I would agree with that.
To bring it back to the tier, I'd probably put it somewhere either in front of or behind Miles wearing just the mask.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would agree with that. That would be the spot where it would be in. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where I'm at. So we want to wrap this up there, Neil. Final thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm probably not alone in my opinions on this one. This feels like the most. For those of you who agree, let us know in the comments. Just say I agree with that.
Right below the like button.
If those of you who don't agree with our tier list, make a longer comment that explains why you don't agree with it, because we enjoy getting critiqued.
Absolutely.
Next time, we'll hopefully have more bodies to throw at this problem, because next time we're doing Gamerman 2, and every
don't know when the next time will be, but there will be a next time. It's coming soon.
And there's like 4 styles per suit. Jesus Christ, we're all gonna drown in suits.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm just realizing I wore this hat through this entire damn video. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, attaboy.